Evidence for evolution. On your mark. Just set, go.
It's a type of structure.
Some don't need it.
Go.
Tailbone.
Oh, it's vestigial.
Yes. You get with these things you take out.
No, like mutation. Remember it's
The nature chooses who's next?
Armpit hair or just hair?
Inside nucleus. No. Well, yes.
DNA.
Yes.
Good, Nick, good.
There we go.
Okay.
Over in 2 hours.
Vestigial. Cole, what do you guys talk about for vestigial? Okay.
And how we don't need it. And like, we don't have tails. But we have a tailbone.
So it's evidence that things have evolved.
Yeah.
A lot of people I heard struggle with homologous. Homologous are similarities based on sharing a common ancestor. So our arm structure is similar to a bird's wing, and this even applies to plants, right? Like an apple tree and a pear tree have a lot of homologous structures. They both blossom. An apple kind of looks like a pear. My 1-year-old confuses the two. You guys are trees in an orchard. Okay. So if your tree's in an orchard and you have who's resistance 1? Okay. If you have resistance 1, is that a high resistance or a low resistance? Let's take a look at this picture. See this picture right here? Is that tree doing very well? What's going on with this tree? It's dying. The disease that's killing this tree is called fire blight. Is this tree resistant to fire blight? Let's look at these trees. Let's get a real, you see these trees right here? Does A have the disease? Does B have the disease? Does C? D? Okay. which tree up here is resistant to the disease? Katrina, which tree up here is resistant to the disease? Okay. Now, let's read your cards. A disease comes through. It could be apple scab. It could be fire blight. It could be this like mildew that creates like powders on trees called powdery mildew. It could be any of these diseases, and you're going to read more about it later. But the disease comes through and it kills everything that has a resistance level of 7 and above or below? Below. Why below? Okay. So if you have a resistance of 7 or below, go and sit down. Everybody left, keep your cards up here.
We hate to see
Show
that.
everybody. So show everybody your cards. We got 8s, we got 10s, we got 9s. So they all have what? Higher resistance. Is that a good or a bad thing? It's good because why? They survived. They're able to continue to produce. If they're apple or pear trees, they're able to use apples or pears. Okay. What is this an example of from first semester? What do you mean by that?
It kills off the ones that like have a low resistance and it keeps them.
Okay. What's the variation in this group? Like variation means things aren't all the same. There's varieties. What is the variation out here? Can you see your card? And what's your card? Is there variation between Mackenzie and Katie? Why not, Carly? They're both the same. Okay. How about between Justin and Mackenzie? Sorry. Is there variation there? Why, Kyle? Why is there variation there?
Because Justin's number is lower than Mackenzie's.
Okay. Show everybody your cards right now. Who would you want to plant in your orchard? Isabel, who would you like to plant in your orchard? Why? And what are they resistant to? Okay. Questions about this? We've got an opportunity this spring. We got a grant for $2,000 to plant trees at people's houses. And most of the trees we're planting are your very resistant ones. Like to have levels of 9 or 10 to be able to fight off diseases. The thing is, those aren't the most like common trees at the store. Like, those are not the most common apples you would find in the store. Because most apples you find in the store have needed a lot of what? To keep them to look like this. Some mutations, sure. But if you're resistant to disease, do we need to spray those? Do we need to spray a whole bunch of chemicals on the resistant trees? No, on the resistant trees we don't need to spray a whole bunch of chemicals. But on most other trees, you need to spray so that the apples look nice. Otherwise there'll be a whole bunch of spots all over. So we get to hopefully plant trees at your house, or your neighbor's house, or your relative's house, or maybe just a partner in this class you partner up with. Okay? But we're going to learn all about these trees going forward. Questions about this? Put yours right here. We're going to we're going to do some true-false questions on here to see how well you understand how plants reproduce. And there's a sign that says, do this side first. Tyler, Dylan, partner up. I want you to go through 1 through 9 and compare what you got. try to see where you agree, disagree. Good. Where do you guys disagree at?
We disagree on looks like 6.
Which is
6 and 8.
I disagree. Like,
So for number 6, it says cross-pollination best occurs between 2 yellow delicious apple trees that are close together.
okay.
I mean, I don't think
Like if they're the same, I think that's the best.
if the same tree has a cross pollination, I don't understand. That one.
He doesn't understand.
This makes no sense.
Are you really gonna skip
Plant reproduction?
Yeah,
What do you mean?
because I put false, so he went and Googled it,
Yeah.
and he's over here, and this says that they can sexually reproduce. But that doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Which question is that?
The first one.
Okay. Let's talk about the first two. Okay. Well, question 2 and 1 creates the most disagreements. So I want you to think about the evidence that you use to either say that plants sexually reproduce or not. So number 1, read that for us, Dylan Smith.
Plant and sexually reproduce.
Okay, so how many go true on that? How many go false on that? Okay. Who wants to talk? We'll do some productive talk. Remember, safe space and a productive talk. Remember, avoid personal attacks. Rely upon evidence. And we're trying to find patterns to come to solutions. So we have to be able to listen. Yeah, Nick, go for it.
Because to sexually reproduce, you have to have
Okay.
intercourse, you know?
Okay.
Asexual is like pollinating.
So you're saying pollinating is asexual?
No, I don't know. Plants don't have don't sexually reproduce.
I got this.
Yeah. To sexually reproduce, you have to have sex.
Okay. Safe space, so we want to be able to listen to what people are saying. Altea, go for it.
So to have sex, you need 2 people, right? Flowers can't move, so you can't have sex with flowers.
Okay.
So asexual is when you have sex. Is when you have sex with yourself?
Okay. We're gonna. What's your question?
Like, what is asexual? Like,
Does anyone have a definition that they remember of asexual or not? Yeah, Morgan.
Isn't like asexual when they reproduce themselves, like they self-switch, something like that?
They start to clone.
It's like yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many parents are asexual?
One.
1. How many parents are asexual?
2.
Okay. Talk.
Okay, so basically the version of sex is pollination.
Wait, pause. People aren't really being quiet. What?
Okay, so asexual reproduction is like mitosis and stuff like that. So pollination is sexual reproduction because you're getting pollen from one tree going to the blossoms of another tree. So it's taking genetic information from 2 different plants.
good Elijah.
I have a question about like dandelions. Don't dandelions just go from the white bushy thingy and then just into the ground and plant? So themselves just get planted? Like they don't fertilize anything really?
Could the pollen from one dandelion spread to another dandelion?
Yeah.
And that double dandelions? Like how would that make a difference?
Okay.
Does it have to go to another dandelion then?
It's a good question. I think that we'd have to set up an experiment to test that out somehow. Okay, so for number 1, plants can sexually reproduce. How many say true to that? So how many say false to number 1 still? Okay. Why, Altea?
Because
You want to talk to me?
so for sexual reproduction, if you ask me, I actually can't really explain it.
So he used the word intercourse, right? Do you have to have intercourse for sexual reproduction to happen?
Yes. No.
No, you can put just a thing.
Oh no, there are other processes.
You can inseminate.
Is it still sexual reproduction?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to keep going. Number 7, cross-pollination best occurs between different types of apples that are close together. How many go true on that? How many go false on that? Okay. What were you thinking, Brady? On number 7?
7?
Yeah, the different types of apple trees close together.
Well, I used my information from the bottom section. As I said, for 14, 15, it said additionally, most apple trees are the same species as they cross-pollinate each other. And then, however, apples and pears are not the same species, therefore they cannot reproduce. So it said if cross-pollination best occurs between different types of apple trees that are close together. I said that couldn't work, so it's false.
You said it couldn't work?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want all Honeycrisp to be able to pollinate Honeycrisp?
Yeah.
Okay. How many of you agree with that? That you can have all the exact same type of tree and orchard and they can then cross-pollinate each other?
No, because you have to have a different species to be able to cross-pollinate. Did you just wait?
Go, Jack. I think we have to sort out 2 different, there's species and there's varieties. Yes, Sophia?
Isn't cross-pollination just like a term for crossbreeding, which is like just 2 different subspecies? You need to create a species.
So, I'll tell you, men and women, are they the same species?
Yeah.
Can they cross-pollinate?
Is that sex?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, different trees are the same, different apple trees are the same
species.
Got it. We'll just call them different varieties. Today we're going to look at a whole bunch of different varieties of apple trees, and I'll explain why in a second. If you plant a seed inside from inside of an apple, is it going to give you a tree that makes the exact same apples?
Yes.
Because?
That apple has the same DNA that the tree had. And
I'll tell you, what did you say?
I said that there's like 2 in like sexual reproduction. There's 2 trees, and the one that fell on was like the mother tree, and the daddy tree is a different type. So there's still like it could be a different variety of a tree.
What are your thoughts on that, Connor?
oh, I thought plants were most likely to reproduce asexually.
Wait. Reproduce asexual.
That's not
Wait. You had 2 things come together, right? So what kind of reproduction would that be? So do plants do sexual reproduction? Keo, help him out. Okay. Hopefully the activities we do will help sort some of this out. Okay. I've ordered these trees for this orchard project where you guys get to like plant trees in people's houses. And what?
Did we just go into someone's yard?
Well,
no.
Yeah.
Give them legal permission.
We're not just going to go
get
into people's
arrested.
yards. We have to find people who like will take care of them, make sure they're watered.
I'll do that.
We kind of have to like work out not necessarily a contract, but like, hey, follow these guidelines, right? Like make sure if we're giving you a pristine tree that cost us like
It's actually the brand. Pristine.
yeah, pristine. Yeah.
Are you buying those
That's
out of your own
ironic.
money?
So we have a planet stewardship grant.
I want the weird
Oh, they
gonna-
give you money to do it?
Right, I had to like write a bunch of essays and watch a bunch of videos, and now we have the money to plant all these trees. But it's complicated though, right? Because if you look, we have pristine apples, we have red fruit, we have Williams Pride, we don't have Freedom because they weren't available. We have John of Free and Enterprise, we have Honeycrisp, we have Harrow Sweet Pear, Blake Pride Pear, Potomac Pear, Shenandoah Pear, and then don't worry about this, we'll worry about that later. But we gotta make people want to plant these trees. right? So we have to do some convincing. But they also have to plant the right kind of trees together. So if someone says, yes, I will take these trees and I will plant them, and they say, we would like 2 pristine apple trees. You, understanding biology, will we let them get 2 pristine apple trees?
No.
Why not?
Because I'm too different.
No biodiversity.
So there's biodiversity issues, right? What else?
Give them one pear, give them one apple.
So we could give them 1 pear and 1 apple, but can a pear pollinate an apple?
No, give them 2 different kind of apple trees.
So when people order, they're gonna have to get like 2 different, say that again.
2 different kind of apple trees or 2 different kind of pear trees.
And I don't know all this information yet. Like, I haven't researched these enough. I picked these trees out based on disease resistance. Remember the beginning of the day when we had like 8, 9s, and 10s? These trees, except for Honeycrisp, are very disease resistant. So I don't know when they blossom though. So blossoming is not the same time as harvesting. Blossoming is when their flowers come out for pollination. So what we need to do today in like groups of 2 to 3 is we need to figure out which trees are going to pollinate which other trees. Because if you have one blossom in April and the other blossom, sorry, if one blossoms like in early April and the other blossoms in May, is one blossoming in April going to pollinate the one in May? No, because they're like putting out their flowers at the wrong times. So we kind of have to piece this together to figure out which is going to go with which. I've got a slide here where you're going to work with a group looking into these types of trees. We'll kind of figure out who's going to do which. And for your tree variety, you're going to make a big whiteboard. You're going to get your Chromebooks out. You're going to find out when does it blossom. Where do you get that information from? What other trees are best to pollinate with it? Like what trees from this list will work? And then any other special adaptations, because we're going to try to convince people to want these trees. So that way they're excited for it and they're actually going to like plant them and help them grow. We got Jonafree.
Is Jonathan also called Jonathan?
No. Jonathan are separate from Jonafree. The free part represents, it's like a disease-resistant form of Jonathan. It's related to Jonathan, but not. Have you ever had a Jonathan apple?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, it says late, but what is late supposed to mean?
So that's the only one.
Is late like fall?
Late, is it late blossoming or late harvesting?
Blossom.
Because late blossoming means like the flowers come out in the spring.
But when does it have to be planted for the flowers to come out in the spring? Or like when does it start?
We are planting all of these trees like in March or April.
And it comes out in the spring.
So then the flowers come out at a certain time every year after that.
But it comes out late after you plant.
The flowers come out based a little bit on the weather for that year. But typically it'll be like early, mid, or late. Honeycrisp blossoms early. Interesting.
Wait, do more than one person?
Wait, which one are you guys doing?
They're red free.
The red free. Are you with Natsumi? Yeah, you guys have red free. Did red free blossom early?
I thought you said we had honey.
I don't know.
We had red free.
You had red free.
Oh no. Okay, so for this, are we just putting what they need?
For special adaptations, you're looking for traits that will convince people that they want to plant these.
Okay, so the first one is that they can be planted in hot and cold.
So wouldn't it depend off each other? So if it's late harvest.
Late harvest. Harvest is not when they pollinate, though.
Yeah.
So when do they spread their pollen from one flower to the other?
So we're trying to figure out what we can cross-pollinate with.
How's it going, McKay? How's it going?
The apples fall drop on the ground.
Yeah.
And there's also.
On the site for pollination partners.
Yeah.
I can't find for any for pristine, but I can't find some for red tree. Do you want me to
So,
visit another site or?
If
Well, but according to this pollination chart, it doesn't show that.
so, the pollination chart doesn't have every single variety ever.
Yeah.
In general, if things blossom mid-season, they can also pollinate other mid-season blossomers. If the like if you're in an orchard and you have this blossoming and this blossoming, they can probably cross-pollinate. So you're going to look for something else that is also.
So, pollination partners for apple trees, they blossom in mid-season.
And I think that would also do a pristine, right?
Yeah.
It's what resistant?
Scab resistant,
Okay.
so we could put scab resistant.
Have we found what else it can pollinate?
It can pollinate.
This is a long list of, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, but there's like some that says like late season, early season.
The early mid ones could be Scarlet Surprise, Pristine, Lodi, and Start apples.
This is.
Oh yeah.
I found a bunch.
Ooh, that's interesting. The apple's going to fall on the ground. Some people like that trait because they're afraid of bees. Like if the apples fall on the ground, they're worried about bees on the ground. But I think you're planted in hot or cold weather also might mean like it can grow in hot or cold weather. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, every time I look it up, it just says it's flowering group 4. I don't know.
Say it again.
It says it's flowering group 4.
Flowering group 4. Can you try to find out what flowering group 4 means? Wait. So look. So Enterprise is flowering group 4. Is there any others flowering group 4 that are on our list? You understand what I'm saying? I try to find out other trees in flowering group 4 that match with ours. Alex, how we doing? Start with putting the tree title on there.
Should we put the quality of the apples under that?
Is it a selling point? Is it going to make people want to get that apple more?
It's a dessert quality apple.
Sounds delicious to me.
All right.
Wait, so
Yeah.
this part, does it have to be one of the apples on the list? To cross
Yes.
right?
That way they get 2 trees that.
Okay, so these are
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would work.
I went back, it took me back to the same site, but I searched the pristine apple trees and it showed me that.
Okay.
So you want me to look at all the apples on the list that are in flowering
Hey.
group 4?
Kyle Wickheiser, what do you say about Enterprise? They're in what flowering group? And what did you just find out?
The pristine apple trees are in 4.
So say that again. Enterprise are.
Pristine apple trees are in flowering group 4.
So do you guys help each other out there somehow? Yeah, meet up and talk to each other about it.